All right, everybody, we are live. We should be good to go. We did a little bit of a test run before, and I got to say, guys, I am super excited to have our first guest on an industry QA. You are watching a live industry QA from Guns and Tactics. You can check us out online at gunsandtactics.com. Again, my name is Dave. I appreciate everybody joining. Now, we're going to go ahead and welcome our guest. Let's make sure everything is working good here. And
You guys
looks
hear me
like,
okay?
yeah, we got you
Hey,
loud and
how you
clear.
guys going?
Hey, good,
Good, good.
Josh.
Pleasure to be here.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. I was just kind of giving a quick intro to everybody that this is our first industry QA, and we have Josh from Holosun Optics joining us.
Yeah,
And
super excited. I think definitely overdue for one of these, right?
yeah, so obviously a lot to go over. My first question, though, Josh, is I think everybody wants to know: is it Holosun or Holosun?
I think it depends on how far east in the country you live, because for us on the California over here, it's Hollow Sun. But I definitely see that accent kind of creep in the further east I go for trade shows. So
All right. Now, I'm getting a little bit of feedback from your audio. There's like a little bit of a buzz in the background, so I'm not sure if that's a camera
it's like,
setting or a live stream, but we
like
can see
let's
it.
lower that a little bit.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah,
A
that
little
sounds.
better?
Yep, that sounds better. So I think
Okay.
we'll be good to go. Now, for you, those of you guys watching live, we are streaming this on YouTube and Facebook. You can check us out, like, share, subscribe. We really would appreciate all of that. Because it really does make a difference, right? It helps us grow. And like I've told you guys before who have watched this, as the channel grows, we have more opportunities to do stuff exactly like this. Do have to give a quick shout out to all of our Patreon supporters as well, although my graphic doesn't appear to be showing up, so that's great. But oh well. Uh, the joys of technology. But I do have to give a quick shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. If you want to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon. And any little bit really does help. There we go. We do have different levels of supporters. If you just want to contribute anything as little as $1 or $2, all the way on up to our high level, so you can get shout outs like this. Otherwise, if you guys like the content, you can also send stars on Facebook or do a super thanks. But again, thank you to all of our Patreon and Patreon supporters. We do really, really appreciate that. All right, now let's get back to it. Obviously, we have a lot to talk about. We'll hopefully go for about an hour. You guys had an amazing SHOT Show. And SHOT Show, I thought overall was pretty good. A lot of new stuff, some innovative stuff. But if I had to give a company that I was most excited to check out, you guys would be on my top, probably my top optics list for sure. But there was some cool guns I wanted to check out. But man, you guys had some really, really cool stuff.
Oh man, this year's SHOT Show for us was a whirlwind to say the least. I definitely think we had more foot traffic than we've ever had before, and just the overall impression from everybody at the show. Super excited to see all the new products. I think obviously by far and away our new thermal optic kind of stole the show. Everybody was stopping by to get as many pictures as they could with that. I think in the morning, they would get picked up off the rack, and I swear I never saw them hit the rack until the end of the day. So it was just yeah, definitely a busy time at the show, but super awesome to see everybody and show off all the cool new stuff. Because it was cool to see the reception. So
Yeah, and I think it was well deserved too. I mean, obviously the thermal and the night vision was probably something that I was most intrigued to see, not just at the range day, but also at the Agency Arms event where we actually got to see it at night.
yeah,
But then you also had some really awesome pistol optics and rifle sights too that we'll talk about because I think those maybe didn't get quite as much credit as they deserved because I don't know about you, but I'm pumped about the SRS S self-charging. Oh my gosh, I get all these acronyms mixed up. The 320, the Delta Point
we've
Pro
got just a
footprint.
couple to play with, so no worries. It's the SCS, the solar charging series.
There we go, and we're starting to get a little bit of that feedback again. I'm not sure if it's
Let's see.
on my end, but yeah, the SCS 320, which is a Delta Point Pro footprint. We have the SCRS, the solar charging rifle sight, which is a 509 footprint, but a little, basically a red dot type sight, which I think will be really cool for
Yep.
offset. I'm planning on putting one on a shotgun, all sorts of cool stuff there. And then the 507 comp, which I'm excited about. And speaking of 507 comps, is it just me or is it true that you're actually going to give one away to a lucky viewer?
This will be the first time we're going to do this because, I think the demand for the 507 competition is just through the roof right now. Everybody's super excited about this. So, but yeah, we are going to be giving away one lucky winner is going to be winning one of the first optics to come out of the production. We're expecting these to be, kind of around the March timeframe. So it's going to be pretty soon. So if you win one of these, you won't have to wait too long to put one of these on your awesome open, cool staccato pistol that you have. So.
Yeah, and as soon as I get mine, guys, I know one of the questions right away is how does it compare size-wise? How does it compare durability? Because we did get a couple of questions to our QA ahead of time. We did promote this, and we allowed people to send in some emails, which, speaking of which, if you want to see your question get on any of our QA shows, you can send us an email to the QA at gunsandtactics.com. That email address is shown on the screen. And at the end of the month, which coming up Monday is going to be our live QA. But if you had any questions about this or anything firearms related, you can go ahead and send an email to that address shown on the screen. But a couple of people were asking, how does it compare in size, durability, all that stuff? And I think maybe we'll just start with the 507 comp, but I think it probably compares mostly in the market to the Delta Point Pro, the SRO, and now the comp. And, as far as competition style optics, and I'm going to let you kind of take it away.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, the market's pretty only much had like those three that you mentioned, the SRO, that Delta Point Pro, and it's just kind of been one of those things where I think, offering a really large windowed optic, there's always going to be some design issues around that, with trying to make sure that you have the most durable optic as possible with it. But I think we've come up with a really clever design, and just really maximizing the window size on this. I mean, this window size is nearly the same size as our Ames rifle sights, so I mean, it is an incredibly huge window. And the cool thing about this one too is that because this, we have kind of this leaned back front lens here, holster compatibility and stuff like that is super easy. You don't have to channel out any of the hoods or anything like that. It's not super outside the box to where it's, compatibility issues are going to be difficult. We're still working on kind of testing all the fitment and stuff like that, but so far we haven't found a lot of issues with fitting them in most common holsters people are running. And I think the thing for me that's got me the most excited about this is like, yes, it's a big windowed optic. There's not an incredible amount of, interesting thing. It is a big window, but the cool thing is we have a new competition reticle system that we've built into this as well, just really theming this off of the competition side of things, taking feedback from pro shooters. And basically what they came up with is we're going to have a 2 MOA dot to start with, and then you're going to have an 8 MOA ring, a 20 MOA ring, and a 32 MOA ring. And so you have a lot of options you can play with in between there. And one of the cool things is, if you have a stage where there's a lot of poppers at 25, very small, 8-inch plates, you can run that 2 MOA dot on that stage. Maybe the next stage, everything is 10 yards and in, super close up stuff. Easily just switch that over to the 8 MOA. You can speed through the course. And so there's just a lot of options for people to play with to see which, reticles they like the most. And I think, going forward, I cannot wait to get these on my pistols because, I just think it's going to be one of those really, really cool setups. And I'm definitely looking forward to running them. So I can't wait to get these on the market for everybody, honestly. Like the competition optic by far is one that I'm most excited about for this year. And I think the market reaction, once everybody gets their hands on them, is going to be pretty, pretty awesome. So,
yeah, I agree. And I do got to give a shout out to my friend Scott Jedlinski. He goes by Jedi Modern Samurai Project. He has one, and he posted a quick video the other day, just kind of doing a little bit of testing, racking it off of a bench and racking it off of a shooting stand or whatever, just to kind of show the durability that the dot still was on and, didn't lose power, didn't lose anything like that. Because sometimes with some of the optics out there, if you drop them, if you hit them, whatever, the battery contacts, they lose contact, they can turn off. And I'm going to plan on doing some testing when I get a sample as well, as far as return to zero, holding zero. Both Scott and I teach red dot handgun classes. However, Scott is like the Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan OG of handgun red dots. And then I would put up there.
Scott definitely knows the stuff, man. He's a wizard for sure.
Yeah, I love learning from him. I'm a student of his as well, and I have mad respect for him. And I'm proud to be able to call him a friend. Like we were able to hang out a couple times now, and he's definitely a cool dude that knows his stuff and happy to share knowledge. So if you guys haven't checked him out, if you're looking for quality training, definitely want to give a shout out to him. Before we get too far into the weeds on some of the other specs on the 507 comp, I just want to do a quick check in on the comments that we're getting in. And we do have some comments about the SCS 320, so we'll get to that here in just a little bit. And as far as the 507 comp, I did have one question on email that I wanted to make sure we get to, as well as the comments. So with the 507 comp, when is the scheduled release date? And Do you guys anticipate that there's going to be shortages? That's part one of the question.
I mean, shortages is a tough answer. I mean, realistically, it's trying to keep up with the demand, and the demand is, kind of through the roof for some of these new products that we have. I think realistically, we're going to have a very, very large initial batch, so we're trying to cover as much of those as we can. We're looking at a timeline of hopefully around production going into for March, so it shouldn't be too much longer for us to get these out in the market for you guys. But we're definitely going to try to kick as many out as we can. This is a little bit easier to build than some of our other sites like the EPS series. And so you should expect to see a lot more of these in the marketplace because we know the demand for this is through the roof and everybody loves these big windowed optics. And so, yeah, we're definitely going to have a lot of production for this initial batch.
Awesome. And I know the thing that I'm excited about is that the big window, like we talked about, but because it doesn't have that forward facing or that forward hanging ledge, holster compatibility is going to be huge.
Yeah, I know it's one of those things where it seems like such a small design aspect, but just keeping it a little closer to the lens, and so a lot of the concerns were, well, that hood's there, so it helps with sun and bright days and stuff like that. But so far in the testing and feedback that we've got from the shooters, it hasn't really had any impact on them. They're not noticing any issues on those bright days where that sun's right in the lens. And so far it's been a pretty good design choice for us. And I think the holster compatibility side of it for me is just a big one because if you have a holster set up and you got your gun already set up, it's just such a pain to go swapping. And so this just kind of makes it a little more simpler for the streamlining that process.
Yeah, and one of the other cool things that we maybe haven't talked about is that it takes its RMR footprint. So it'll mount on any gun
Correct,
that is
yes.
milled for an RMR or the adapter plates. So RMR, SROs, 508s, 507,
Yeah, I mean, that RMR footprint on those full size pistols is pretty big these days. You see it all over the place on the marketplace. So we just want to make something that's standard, compatible with everything you guys are already running. No need for new new footprints in the industry. I think we can all agree on that. So definitely a pretty cool option.
Yeah. And then Kua Designs, their second part of their question was the 507 comp. Obviously, it's a titanium body, but how does it compare durability to some of your other products?
So the comp actually is going to be an aluminum body. So it's a 7075.
This is why we're doing
And
this,
so,
right?
I mean, durability wise, you're getting pretty much the same performance you would expect out of a 507C. We're just increasing that size. We're going to have to run some more tests and put it through its paces and let people get it out there in the marketplace and play with it some more. But, like you said from Jedi's video where he was racking it off of, the metal on the side of the gun stands and stuff like that, durability is there. I don't think it's going to be super big concern for a lot of people. We're not exactly pitching this as like your next duty optic. This is very competition focused. And I think the competition mindset understands that, some of the gear you might need to be a little more gentle with it, but I really don't think that's going to be the case with this one, especially just how rugged and durable this housing is. And that Jedi video, like you were talking about, definitely highlights that point. He's slamming it off there, and you're barely even there's like not even anodizing that's off the housing. So I think it's definitely a pretty cool build.
Well, just you wait till I get mine because I won't be nice to it.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point. We want to get testing and feedback from people and try to always improve on optics. This is the first time we're getting into the competition side of things with such a large window like this, and so I think we're going to knock it out of the park. And I just, we'll see how things go, but I don't expect any issues with durability on these.
Yeah, and then MSRP on the 507 comp.
Sorry, one more time.
MSRP on the 507 comp. Got a couple comments about asking about pricing.
Yeah, so we're looking at about around $400 on the high end, and I think it's about $30 less than that for the standard MRS for red and green colors respectively, or CRS, I should say.
Okay.
So right around that $400 price point.
Nice, excellent. Now, speaking of other handgun optics that you guys came out with at SHOT Show, so we switched to the 320 because I got a couple comments in here about people wanting an enclosed emitter in the SCS. Well, boom, delivered.
Yeah, I mean, it's been one of those requests. As soon as we came out with the Glock version of this, man, the request for, hey, we love this, but we would love for it to be enclosed. Why can't you guys do that? And really, it comes down to screw placement. A lot of the times when you're trying to design these optics that are specifically cut for very certain slides, a lot of the times the screw placement kind of dictates where you can and can't put the lens. And especially with the MOS series, those screws are so far forward, there's really not enough space to put an enclosed lens system. And going to the new SES 320 we have here, this works off of the Delta Point Pro footprint, which is quite longer. And that allows us to have the screw placement, pretty far back, and that gives us enough space to be able to run, an enclosed housing with this. So this is the first enclosed housing for the SCS series. Who knows what the future will hold with more of these? It just kind of depends on the footprint of the gun that we're cutting these for. And a lot of times it's really that screw placement that gets you for not being able to do enclosed options. We would love to do more enclosed options. I think that's kind of going to be obviously the future of optics as we move forward. But you got to get pretty creative for ways to solve that top-down screw issue, unless you end up going back to like a 509T style mount where you'd have that cross leg design, but that increases the height. So, always give and take with certain optics and setups.
No, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Now, other comments that are coming in, basically people asking when is the SCS coming to other platforms. So what platforms do you guys offer an SCS optic for now? Obviously we have the Glock one we talked about, but
Yeah, so we have the Glock MOS. The most recent release would be the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0s. And then roughly after that, we would have the Walther PDP that's coming. We're going to have the VP9 that's going to be coming, and then we'll have the SCS for the 320s as well. So kind of filling out that profile. I mean, we're always open to taking in feedback and listening to what you guys want for the next option for it. I think a lot of people have been requesting some K footprint style stuff for some of those subcompact guns. So that may be in the docket. But we're just kind of looking at what guns are most popular in the marketplace and going, okay, can we make something that works for this, and kind of running with it. I think the most recent one that I was really excited about, aside from this enclosed version, is the Walther PDP one. I live in California, so it's a little hard for me to get cool handguns, and the PDP is definitely on that list of ones that I would love to get a hold of. But man, we matched the slide serrations and everything so well on that one; it just looks awesome. But going back to the 320, that kind of covers most of the platforms out there for the Delta Point Pro footprints for your staccatos, your P320s. So this one kind of fits quite a few different guns. It's not exactly necessarily like, hey, you have to put this on a 320 versus some of the other ones where like, that Walther, that PDP that has to go on a PDP 2.0, or, the VP9s has to go on the optics ready ones. This one, you have a little more playability.
No, that makes sense. And yeah, you kind of addressed it there because I have a couple comments here. This one is from Stannis. What about the SCS for the 43X? And you kind of talked about that might be, for the future.
Yeah, that 43X is that RMSC footprint. So, maybe we'll come up with something that can kind of work with that. So there's like not a plate system involved, but definitely got something. There's been a lot of requests for that one. So I'm hopefully we'll come up with something for that.
Sure. This one's from Big Purple. Are you aware of any plans for a rear backup sight incorporated into the SCS 320? Basically, a lot of the guys the thing that you guys maybe, I feel like we covered it, but the SCS 320 is Delta Point Pro footprint, so it's not only going to fit 320 milled slides, but it will fit some staccatos and some other aftermarket slides too.
Yeah, and that's kind of why the design has to not necessarily go with that rear sight setup. I mean, I know some of the SIG pistols, when you put on an optic, you are removing that rear sight, and you got to kind of get plate setups to work with that. But realistically, we're trying to design it for more of a wider spread of the Delta Point Pro footprint options, like the staccatos, like you were saying. And so, yeah, if we were to build something in there, it's just kind of like, will it get used? This is going to work for every build. Does it increase the length? A lot of variables. So we're just trying to kind of make it as streamlined as possible for as many platforms as possible with this, at least with this release. And who knows, we might come out with more variations of these as time goes on. The SIG pistols are obviously very popular. The staccatos are very popular. And so, having maybe dedicated options in the future is a possibility. But I think for now, just kind of testing out the, enclosed versions of these and getting them out in the marketplace is the first step with this.
No, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Good question, Big Purple, and thank you for your answer. Let me just cruise through the comments, make sure we got everything else.
The serrations on these 320s look so great on the staccatos, by the way. I saw one recently, and I was just like, woo, can't wait.
I don't want to, be like a beggar here, but just saying, I got a few staccatos laying around that.
No, I do have a sample for you. Like, it's not this one, but I got a couple extra, so don't worry, you're going to get one to play around with.
I appreciate it. I feel like a beggar. Every time I talk to Josh, I was like, do you have? And because, let's face it, guys, they are coming out with some really cool stuff. And for those of you guys that are longtime viewers, because I can only see in the future, a comment might come out saying, well, Dave, I remember when you used to say, like, don't buy a Holosun or Holosun. And I will admit, and I've admitted this in my review videos, that when the very first Holosun that I saw was a 507C, I was kind of on the fence. And then I started running the 508s, the 509s, the SDS, the 507Ks, and now the EPS are probably my favorites. I've admitted in my reviews that I have to eat crow because it is such a wonderful line of products that they really have impressed me. And in fact, it's generally, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, Josh, students that maybe are watching can attest, in this in the comments that I generally run mostly Holosun. Now I'm confused, but optics because they're durable, they hold up well, they're priced well, and that's not to say that I haven't killed them because I've killed everything. I've had to send all of the big brands, including some years back, but overall yours hold up really well, and I'm super impressed with the innovation. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I think over the years, we started out very, very small with a couple of products and, kind of created our legacy, if you will, of, really durable options at a really good price point. And I think throughout the years, we've really maintained that, trying to bring the best optics we can at an affordable price point to the masses. And so far, all the products in the lineup have just really checked all those boxes. And every time we make something new, it's really exciting for the marketplace because it's just a lot more options, and I think that that's what people are looking for is just not a one fit all solution for all these guns, and nobody has just one handgun. So it's like, you have plenty of options if you want to run sites. So
Yes, very true. Speaking of red dots, I have one more question that came in via email from Kevin, who is one of our top patrons. So thank you to Kevin. He asks, can you ask Holosun about the Vulcan reticle? How was it developed and which models will have that reticle option? Because I believe that is an exclusive to Primary Arms, correct?
that is correct. Yeah. So the way that the Vulcan reticle system works, and we get this question a ton, is basically Primary Arms. We work very closely with them. We're good friends with those guys over there. And one of the things is, they have this reticle system, the Vulcan. They contacted us and said, hey, we would love to make this and put this in one of your housings. Okay, no problem. So we basically manufacture it for them to the specs that they ask us for, and that's kind of the gist of how the Vulcan system works. From there, it's entirely a Primary Arms thing. We don't do the marketing for that or any of the warranty kind of stuff. It's all on Primary Arms. But yeah, the Vulcan reticle system for any new versions of that, we just came out with the K version. That's got the 3 MOA dot and a little bit of different options in there. But it kind of really just depends on Primary Arms and people much higher than myself in the company sitting down at the table and talking about what new products they want to come out with and collaborating and doing those deals. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a Primary Arms initiative, and we're super happy to work together with them and create some really cool products. I think people really love that ACSS. I see a lot of buzz about that online. For me personally, I'm more of a dot guy myself. I think the chevron is cool. I totally get the appeal of it, and the training aid with the ring system, very awesome. Totally understand that. I think if I was getting into shooting and I didn't know a lot about what I was doing, an awesome training aid. I think I've kind of gotten to a point now where I don't struggle as much to find that dot on that draw stroke. So for me, it doesn't have as much of an appeal, but I definitely see why people love the ACSS. So that's kind of the gist of how that whole system works.
Nice. And I totally agree. As a training aid, especially so in my classes, shameless plug, I talk about the 3 top struggles for handgun red dots. Number 1 is finding the dot. Number 2 is tracking the dot, so they have to find it after recoil. And then number 3 is reducing dot movement. And in my classes, as well as many others, we talk about those 3 struggles. And what's cool with the Vulcan, for those of you guys that aren't familiar, it has this huge ring, but that ring is basically only available when you're tipping the optic. When you're just looking through and everything's aligned, you just see a center chevron, but it allows you to kind of find the reticle earlier versus just having the dot, because you don't really find the dot until you're just about at the end of your presentation. There's a term that I came up with is called the funnel of visibility. And basically, when the firearm's at full extension, if we pictured a funnel that gets narrower, there's only kind of a sweet spot where we can see the dot. So the Vulcan reticle kind of helps with that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
for like a really good training aid for kind of diagnosing your own issues at home as well too, as you're practicing draw strokes. If you're constantly coming in and you're seeing that line at the top of the 12, okay, I got to start working on some different things. So it's a cool diagnostics tool, but I think at the end of the day, nothing beats live fire and getting out there and actually putting some reps down range, because tracking that dot through recoils, like you said, it's one of those things you got to spend some time doing. So
absolutely. Quick question here from Scott. Can you verify that the SCS MP 2.0 will fit the 10 millimeter version? It's not listed on the website.
Yeah. So, technically speaking, it will fit on the 10 millimeter version. You're going to have a little bit of slide, I guess. This optic's going to sit within the slide because the slide is a lot thicker to accommodate that 10 mil round. It will fit on there. We have seen pictures of it and it works just fine. But I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it. But it is one of those things. It will fit on there, not a problem. So, but it's 10 mils. 10 mils kind of a beastly round. So definitely make sure you get your Loctite on there.
Yes. This is another one from Happy Joy. We want a red dot for the 43X without plates. So yeah, talking about that micro mount, I agree. I think we all do.
Yeah, I think for me, it's one of those things where you know, these standards get produced for footprints and stuff like that. And it's Glock's obviously gone with the RMSC for that footprint. And, you know, we have the K footprint that we use, which is a slightly modified version of that. And so it's just kind of these two standards that are trying to meet to get something produced. But we definitely hear you guys. We know the Glock 43X is exceptionally popular. And so getting something that doesn't use plates, for sure, we hear you guys on that one.
Yeah, and I just got to give a quick shout out. Jill is checking in. Jill and Ben, I know are watching, also from Minnesota. I just got to say hello to them. Appreciate you guys checking in with the live stream. And let's see here. I think we're just about caught up on comments. Now, Carl, this is a controversial one. What is the best reticle for concealed carry? I don't know about you, but man, like I can go through the pros and cons of like the dot versus the halo, but you're the special guest.
I mean, yeah, for me, I kind of just, I guess I distill it into like more of a competition mindset. And I go, okay, well, if the goal is to shoot fast and as accurately as possible, as close up as possible, who does that the best? Well, competition shooters are always the guys doing that the fastest as possible. So what kind of dots do they usually run? Traditionally, it's kind of bigger dots, that 6, that 8 MOA, sometimes even bigger than that. Some guys prefer a much smaller dot, but most of the guys that at least I've seen and learned a little bit of information from, going fast means acquiring the dot faster, which means possibly a bigger dot. So for me personally, any kind of concealed carry weapon situation like that, I'm not planning on taking, 50 to 100 yard shots. It's not my blinking gun when I'm at the range. So probably going to prefer myself to drop into that 6 MOA dot range. If I want to just run a dot, I think the MRS reticle honestly is pretty dang good for anything close up. If you do end up having a 2 MOA, then you can just turn it off when you want to go blink at 100 yards, something with your friends. But I probably would fall into the 6 MOA dot category myself personally. I think the 6 is a great balance of speed and precision for anything under 25.
Nice. And my personal preference is your MRS or your multi-reticle system. And
yeah.
My thoughts is that if I want to run just the dot only to have kind of a clean, sight picture, you have the dot. And I kind of liked anywhere from that 2 to 4 MOA for me. It gives me a small enough dot at distance, a big enough to find it. But the really cool thing that I like about the multi-reticle system is that when I shoot night vision, I switch it to the halo dot, and then I have more contrast because under night vision, a single dot and my friend's laser look pretty close. And sometimes it's easy to get confused or even, other stuff in there. So that's why I love your multi-reticle system, especially for night vision, because it gives me an option. And then the other cool thing with the multi-reticle system is that I've had a few colorblind students in my classes. And some of them have noticed that the dot, while they can see it, it's brighter. They can definitely tell where it is. Once they get, like one shooter described it as the Top Gun reticle, it immediately had more contrast for him, and for his eyes being colorblind, he was able to see that larger ring with the dot and have everything nice in contrast. So he knew exactly what it was, making sure it wasn't a reflection, a glint of the sun, or something weird because of his particular colorblind issue. And that's the other cool thing with Holosun. You guys offer green, red, and it gives different people like different, colorblind levels or whatever. I've given some people a green 508 and they were like, man, I see this way better. And that's the cool thing. That's what I love about the innovation with Holosun. And not just saying this because Josh is here. Other people can attest. I've said this before. All right, let's.
No, I think it's very true though. Offering those multiple color options. It's one of those things where we get tons of phone calls and questions all the time. Like, hey, I looked at one of your green dots and it doesn't look that good. Like, hey, check out a red dot. You're like, oh yeah, that one looks great to me. And like we are completely opposites of that. The unique thing is everybody's eye is a little bit different, especially when it comes to astigmatisms, all that kinds of stuff. And so, it's just trying to offer more options for people to be able to get, something that works for them, that's usable, and kind of be keeping in that same thought process. We're working on possibly doing some gold options now for pistol dots. I don't know exactly where that is in the timescale, but we did see some samples at SHOT Show that people were checking out. So, you might see a 5192 with the gold option inside there, and you're kind of thinking like, why gold? And it's like, well, you can be red colorblind, you can be green colorblind, but you can't really be colorblind to the yellow spectrum as much. So it just provides those people that do have, even more eyesight issues, you have another option. And so we'll see how that goes as far as if people pick up on that or if they like that option. We've had that in the rifle sights for a little bit, and it's kind of like been a little bit hit or miss, but I think it's one of those things where just offering more options for people because, like you said, everyone's eyes are a little bit different. They pick things up depending upon what reticle and color and stuff. And so it's just it's always a tricky one to kind of figure out for people because, man, if we could figure out a sight that works for everybody's astigmatism, we'd be in the money at that point for sure.
That's right. For those of you guys just joining us, again, this is the Guns and Tactics live stream. We have special guest Josh from Holosun Optics joining us. My name's Dave from Guns and Tactics. You can check us out online. And you can also search online for Holosun Optics. You can see all their cool products, rifle, handgun. They have lasers, they have lights, just continuing to grow and innovate and doing some really cool stuff in the industry. So super happy to have you on the show again. A couple other questions, then we'll maybe move on to the SCRS, and then we'll talk about the thermal and the night vision stuff. I'm going to try to keep it about an hour. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
Quick question here from View at Your Own Risk. Has Holosun ever considered doing a long gun light laser that uses remote batteries to reduce the swing weight? So basically having like a battery pack that would maybe be further back. I'm not aware of anybody doing that. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think I've ever seen any kind of like a, hey, let's shrink the overall device because we don't want to worry about, like shrink the overall package at the end of the gun, I guess, so you don't have to worry about the batteries being in there because they're in another spot. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a very interesting concept. I don't think that it's ever been like really considered. Probably, I mean, looking at like kind of our new DRS sites, the idea of having external battery packs on rifles and stuff like that, I think is maybe not going to be such a weird thing to see. And so maybe some people will come up with some solutions for that. But yeah, very interesting concept. I mean, you could definitely reduce the housing size quite a bit if you don't have to stuff a giant 18650 inside of there. So yeah, maybe doing something with an external battery pack would be pretty cool. So who knows? Who knows what the future holds on that kind of stuff.
So speaking of night vision, this is from comment here. Does Holosun have any plans to come out with any night vision devices, and do they ever plan on releasing full power lasers to the public? Well, you kind of teased that 421, but unfortunately the full power thing, you got to talk to the FDA about that.
Yep. Yeah, the good old Food Drug Administration has some things to say about full power lasers, and they are not super keen on people having access to those. And so, there are some new emerging technologies with, I want to say it's like VSCEL or something along those lines.
Yep. Vexel
With
lasers.
more, yeah. So, and hopefully we'll see some more concepts with that as we get developed with it. And see maybe some new technologies that allow people to have access to a little more higher end stuff in these kind of, pack boxes. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like you said, it's a little difficult just because the FDA says no on those. What was the other part of the question? Night vision devices.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have our first, entry into that foray with the DRS systems, and who knows what the future holds as far as maybe it's a handheld, maybe it's a monocle. I don't know. I mean, realistically, this is our first attempt with the technology and kind of getting things integrated and working together. But I think it's only going to grow from there, and as we see the demand from the users and the requests and feedback that comes up the chain, we always listen to what you guys are saying and we take the feedback very seriously and we always integrate that into the products. And so, if the demand is there and you guys really want something that solves that purpose, then I'm sure we can definitely come up with some solutions because the technology is only getting better as we go with the new digital stuff. And, who knows what the future holds on that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to, maybe we should just let's talk about the SCRS here quick too. And I'm going to throw a quick picture just so you guys can see. Hopefully this works. But here's a quick picture that's, you guys can see it. It's basically a small little red dot, but it uses a 509 footprint, but it's not meant for handguns, but all the mounts are out there. And it's basically this super small, compact, option or whatever. It's pretty cool. Let me switch back to our split screen here, but I think I lost you here. I got to add you back. There we go. So I think that's a pretty cool little enclosed site that's going to be meant for, like we talked about offset rifle dots are kind of popular right now, piggybacks, shotguns, things like that. So I think that's going to be a pretty cool product. I'll let you kind of share with our audience a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think you covered a lot of the bases there. I mean, the SCRS is exactly, what you would want in a small micro dot without having to worry about the battery system. Basically, we're taking the solar charging technology and we're putting it into a micro site now. And basically you're going to get, roughly a 20,000 hour gas tank. I kind of explained to people that the way that the solar system works in this is it's got a battery that's built in internally and the battery has a 20,000 hour lifespan. So anytime that you're using the optic in darkness or anywhere that there's no light, you're draining that 20,000 hour gas tank. But as soon as you put this into sunlight or even the ambient light in the studio here, it's going to start topping up that gas tank. So you have 20,000 hours to go. So realistically speaking, these things are, in my opinion, if you take your rifle outside and shoot with it ever, you're probably not going to have to ever worry about batteries with this. And I think for an offset solution or, PCCs, stuff like that, really small footprint areas, it's just going to be a great option. This is a little bit different than our normal solar charging sights in the fact that you do have manual button adjustment control. So it is not just auto only, but it does have both of those auto sensors, the forward facing as well as the panel on top to help it, read some of the light that's coming in if you kick on a bright flashlight in front of it, so to speak. But yeah, just realistically, it is an awesome little sight, and I can't wait to get one of these. I'm going to put it on my 12 o'clock on my above my scope on my rifle. I think it's just going to be really, really cool setup with this. And like you said, it's on that 509T footprint. So the first thing I think a lot of people think is, oh, well, it's a 509T footprint. I'll throw it on my pistol. But this is more so rated for, rifle style use, those pistols and recoil and the mass reciprocating. There's a lot of energy going on there. And these just aren't necessarily built for that type of standard. But with these ones, there's a lot of aftermarket support for 509T mounts. So we wanted just to try to keep things simple and not create a whole new standard for people to try to work with. So that's kind of the idea behind the design with it. And it does come included with a pretty cool little 163 mount. So I'm really stoked for these.
Yeah, I am too. I can't wait to check
the other
that
thing
out.
too is the price point on them. I mean, on the low end for the dot only, you're looking around $270. On the high end for with the multi reticle system, and the mount and everything like that, maybe like 350 somewhere in that range. So just a really, really cool option for this size package.
Yeah. And a quick question here from Scott, since we were talking about the M&P 2.0 for the 10 mil. If it doesn't necessarily recommend, what would you recommend? And I would just chime in with getting like an RMR plate and then going with like a 508, or if you wanted a 509. I think those would be really solid options, and they would hold up really well on the 10 millimeter beast. Josh, anything to add on that topic?
Yeah, that's probably what I would recommend as well too. The 509 is going to hold up just fine for that. It's just I don't know that we've really necessarily put a lot of the SCS on the 10 mils to really put it through its paces on there, but we've heard people running the MOS for the Glocks on the MOS version and haven't had any issues. So I think you should be all right with it. I mean, those SCS sites are pretty dang durable. So
yeah. Awesome. A couple quick shout outs from some local viewers. Tyler is checking in saying this is great. Vandaputty 555. I believe I know who that is. I don't want to say your first name in case you don't want to, but I believe you're a local viewer, so awesome to see you here as well. And then a couple other questions. Oh my gosh, now we're starting to get a little thick in the weeds here. If you're new here, every one Dave does is 100. Now, when you're saying every one I do, I'm a married man here. I'm hoping that's a typo here. View at your own risk. My wife might be watching this. All right, let's see here. Lots of good info. Thank you. Would love to see Holosun come out with an IR laser and light for pistol. Maybe we should talk about that.
We have one. It's called the PID Dual. We're going to be shipping a lot more of those here relatively soon. I think we've had a couple small batches get out on the market so far. But yeah, I mean, basically the PID Dual is exactly what you're asking for. You're going to get I think it's around 800 lumen white light. You have a visible laser and an IR laser. So all three options to play with. And it comes in a relatively small form factor. I think a lot of times when you get those pistol lasers that have, multiple lasers on there, the size and footprint gets a little out of control from some of the other ones I've seen. So this one's actually pretty compact for what you're getting at. So.
Yeah, and I have a PID. I always forget all the models. What's the one with the green laser?
The Plus.
Plus. So I have a PID Plus, and I've put it on a PCC as well as a handgun. But what I liked about the PCC, and what Josh was saying, I don't know if you have one to show quick. Mine's on a gun, and I can't show guns.
Yeah, I do. I think I'll grab one real fast.
Okay. So, but for those of you guys that are wondering, the PID, the laser is in the light module. So in the reflector of the light, there's like a little spot for the laser. And what's cool is that it doesn't add to it. Like with some of the other brands out there, you have a little hump on the bottom that has basically the laser. And then if you have a holster that doesn't have that little ridge for that bump on the bottom for the laser, it won't work. Whereas the Holosun PIDs, it's really cool because you have the laser in the light reflector. So, and on a PCC that I was shooting, the laser was awesome. It's nice low profile footprint, and then with the dual with the dual function IR and vis laser, I think it's going to be just even better here. So I got you back on screen here. Looks like you're back. I'm going to switch just to you here so you can kind of show that off.
Yeah, so this is the dual unit that we have, and so basically you have firing buttons on the top here for white light, and then you're going to have a different set of buttons on the bottom here for the laser. trapdoor in the bottom for your battery, and like he was saying, the lasers are mounted inside the housing, inside the bezel, so you don't have any of those huge boxes and stuff hanging off. So this is our standard PID. It's about X300 size footprint for holsters, and you can see we're not adding too much bulk and capacity really to the overall unit for the added features of IR and Viz lasers. So pretty cool units.
Absolutely. Another comment here from Paul. Hey, Paul, thank you guys so much for checking in, man. Paul is a great guy out of the Iowa area. Super good dude. We've shot on the line together at classes. Just an amazing guy, an amazing shooter. So thanks, Paul, for checking in. And his question is one that probably should be addressed. Has the SCRS been tested for handling recoil on the pistol? It may not be designed for it, but if it fits to the mount, someone's going to do it. If it fits, it chips.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I don't know that we've necessarily thrown it on one of the dies and tested it to be 100% sure on that. I can definitely inquire more about it, but as far as I know, it's kind of just like, hey, we don't recommend it for this use case. I know people are going to do it immediately. I mean, I did a video with Roger from QVO during SHOT Show, and he immediately was like, I'm going to put it on there, I'm going to. So, I think it's one of those things where I wouldn't recommend it. We don't recommend it, but I'm sure we're going to see videos and stuff like that popping up with them on there. But yeah, for the most part, I honestly don't have a sure answer for you on if it is going to be 100% rated for it. But I guess we will find out soon.
Yeah, yes, we will. And give a shout out for QVO Tactical. Roger is a super good dude. I've gotten to become acquaintances. I don't like to throw the friend term out there too much, but we've gotten to hang out a little bit. I was teaching a class a couple of months ago in the Vegas area, and we hung out, had dinner and some drinks, and super good dude. So I got to give a shout out to Roger. Heyo, check him out. He makes holsters and gear, and super good stuff. I have a few QVO holsters that I rock, and super good dude. Makes great content as well. So check out his channel. Let's just see how we're doing on questions. I think we're doing pretty good on questions. I think it's probably time to start talking about digital night vision and our new products in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, the buzz at SHOT Show for both of these, the thermals as well as the night vision units, were pretty incredible. I mean, we definitely expected to have a really good response from this, but the amount of people that stopped by to take videos and pictures and just spend a couple of minutes looking through these during the show, I think for us, this is one of those things where this is definitely a big step forward in the technological aspects for Holosun and what we're able to provide for the marketplace. And I think, this thermal, fusion overlay system that we have in these is just a really, really cool setup. And I think everybody at the show saw that when they were, panning around the show floor, seeing all the little thermal images popping up around. So I honestly, we have, quite a ways to go for these. These are going to be closer towards the end of the year, maybe early next year for the thermal side of things, and a lot more testing and, feedback and stuff we want to get. But as we move through them, my excitement just keeps building and building because I've gotten a lot of chance to play with these now. And my goodness, the other night I was sitting at my house watching planes flying over, coming into land at LAX, and yeah, the thermal capabilities, you can see the entire fuselage and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool, man. These sights that we have that we're coming out with, I honestly cannot wait.
Yeah,
I know that the questions from people have just been through the roof. There's a lot of nitty gritty technical stuff that people are asking about. So love to see what you guys are interested in.
I'm gonna try to post a video of looking through it here quick if I can find it on my computer. But I have to be a little careful. Obviously, with live stream restrictions, we're limited on what we can show and all that stuff, which is kind of a bummer. But let's see here. I don't know if it's going to work or not. So I think it's because it's mounted. I'm a little cautious. I don't want to risk getting a flag.
No, I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube is definitely a interesting case study.
YouTube, if you're watching, we love you.
Yeah, right. I think one of the things that a lot of people are asking about from the show, or I'm not really sure exactly how this rumor got started, but there's been a lot of talk online.
Spoiler alert! Wait, are you talking about 68 yards? Is that the rumor?
Yeah, this 68 meters, 68 yards thing I don't know where this came from.
I don't know.
It was
either.
One of those we were doing demos at the show all the time, and you can clearly look down the hallway that was easily more than 70 yards and see people. So but there's this weird rumor popping up online that the sites only work out to 70 yards or something. And yeah, that is incredibly not true in any regard. Like I said, I was watching planes, flying over my house. In the background, in the distance with these, I mean, realistically, we still need to do more testing with them to tell you exactly, hey, here's what you can expect range-wise. But in the limited testing that I've had, 3 to 500 yards, really not struggling too much to see quite a bit of resolution and detail, especially considering the fact that they have 8x digital zoom. So, for something for a red dot sight, I don't know how far people are pushing out their red dot sights these days with magnifiers and stuff like that. I mean, maybe you're hitting out to 600 yards with no problem, but, I think an effective range of somewhere in that 500 yards for a red dot sight seems to be pretty reasonable. And with the setups that we have on these, doesn't seem to be a problem whatsoever. So we're hoping to get more videos and show you guys soon as we work through the product cycle and, get these in more field testing and stuff like that. But as it is right now, I can easily dispel that rumor and myth that it only works out to that range, because that is definitely not the case. It works much, much further. So,
No, I agree. And for those of you guys that are kind of new to thermal, so in my prior career, I would use thermal literally on a daily basis. I worked for an agency that was very proactive when it came to equipment, and we had thermal in all of our vehicles, and it was really cool. I don't like to use the term game changer, but for what I was doing, being a rural patrol officer, thermal arguably was a game changer. Like if you had a car that peeled away from you, and it ended up in this parking lot, and now they're ducked down hiding, you could easily use the thermal to see which one's warm, so where they are. You could use it to track lost or missing people, children, or fugitives or whatever. And then also in the drone world, I was a big drone pilot for a while, or operator, because people don't like calling pilots, but I would use thermal a lot. And for those, and we can kind of get into the weeds on this on another video for those who are interested in, but obviously resolution, micron or the pixel size, as well as the sensitivity, are all things that are very important for thermal. And the more resolution, the better. There's no doubt about that. However, the sensitivity to get your, basically, for lack of a better term, your definition. So that each little micron or each little pixel can tell the difference between temperature. That's where you get more of your definition or your contrast. And when I was looking through the devices at night, particularly at the agency event, I was looking out, and you could kind of see, outlines of the mountains and things like that. The thermal targets obviously popped, and obviously, for the large varmint hunters, hog hunting, things like that, I think that's going to be incredibly popular. But I think it's a really, really innovative design, and I think it's going to be really successful. And what's really cool is that this is just version 1.0, so I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, this is our first foray into this kind of technology, and obviously, combining these two systems that everybody loves to use, having thermals, having a red dot sight, but putting those two together and having it work in a fashion that makes sense with the overlay feature. I think one of those things is when you're using thermals, a lot of the times you're looking at an OLED screen, or whatever the screen is you're looking at a physical screen. And it's just like, anybody who plays video games. Yeah. If you're using a screen that's got, a very slow refresh rate, 30 frames a second, versus a super high-end gaming computer type thing with 144 frames, that's just a lot more information. So as you pan and look for those details and try to, if you're trying to track a pig that's running across the field or something, it can be a little difficult to do with some of those screens because the refresh rate isn't there. But when you take that idea and you put it into this system where we have an overlay, your eyes kind of help do a little bit of this work for you, where when you're panning, you don't notice that lag quite as much because you do have that overlay feature. And so I think it's just going to be really cool to see the applications for this in the marketplace. And like you said, hog hunting and, any of those type of things. And it's just a really cool technology. And like you said, this is only Gen 1. So it's only going to continue to increasing it better as we go through it, and feedback from everybody. But I think for this initial launch that we had, and showing everybody these proof of concepts at SHOT Show, it's pretty incredible technology. And I think the fact that we're offering it at a price point that's really not going to break the bank, because I think that's the other part of this equation that kind of gets left out, is how good for how much, and the price point on these really hits an awesome price point for everybody. I think on the highest end we're looking at $2,300. On the low end you're looking at around $1,600 for the thermals, and the night vision's even cheaper than that, for about $1,000 for those units. So just a lot of different options at the price points, and I think that's going to be really big for the consumers. Is just, hey, pick and choose what you want, and it's not really breaking the bank comparatively to some of these other thermal options out there.
Yeah, and the night vision, hopefully you guys, I got a comment from Curtis saying my mic must have got shifted or something, so hopefully I'm coming through better now. But the night vision is, and there's two different types of night vision. There's analog, where we're actually taking light and turning it into electrons or whatever and reconverting it. And then there's digital, which is kind of like a super sensitive digital camera. And you're using a digital night vision, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Our night vision is a digital night vision. I think if we were trying to stuff some, interesting tube style, analog stuff in there, that would definitely incredibly increase the price point. But
Yeah, and the size, yeah.
yeah, it'd be a very interesting looking unit. But yeah, these ones are a digital, camera sensor that works like that. There are some added benefits to that system. Just because you don't ever have to worry about sunlight directly hitting it or anything like that. It works just like a normal camera. So there's, auto gating, if you will. But yeah, I think the night vision side of it too, there's a lot of interesting applications for both of these technologies. And one of the fun things to do is like with the night vision camera, throwing on PECs and lasers and stuff like that. Like it is incredibly cool to see everybody when you're on the line, all of the stuff coming in through the site. So I think that the night vision application one being at around $1,000, if you're somebody who's got a ranch or some property and you just want to scan out there and look around, it is a really, really cool system for that. And it's really, I mean, you figure in Ames is around 400 and $500. You're adding on night vision capabilities for another 500. I don't know. For me, it just seems like an incredible value for the price point. And the resolution too is the big thing is, when you close that front hood and you're getting full pixels and you're seeing everything very clearly, it's pretty impressive how actually crisp and clear that bullet image is. So.
Yeah, and the cool part, I don't think we've touched on this yet, is that it works when you turn that off as a regular red dot. It has glass that you look through with a regular red dot reticle. But then you
correct.
overlay
I mean, it literally is just like, take one of our Ames optics and you're just kind of strapping a camera to the top of it. So if you're familiar with using an Ames, you're going to have that same feature set throughout the day for anytime you need it. And then, hey, now it's nighttime and I kind of want to see what's over there. Simply just close that cap, flip on the top sensor and you're good to go. But for, the majority of the time, you don't have to run the site in its, night vision setting. The red dot and the camera sensors are completely independent of each other. And that there's another aspect of that that's really interesting too, is you do have a red dot sight that you can zero, and then there's also a reticle built into the camera that is entirely adjustable as well too. So you could have two different zeros for shooting 300 blackouts or different loads that you're working on, whatever it may be. It just offers you additional advantages, and you can pick and choose between which ones you want to run. And you can also run this with a magnifier as well too. So you really can increase the capabilities of the entire system, based on what you need. So it's really scalable in that sense.
Awesome. And I do have to give a quick shout out to Tangen. I know we talked about this in the last QA and I was pronouncing your name wrong, but I do have to thank you very much for sending the super chat. I really do appreciate that. So Tangen Arms out of Minnesota, a fellow Minnesotan, I really do appreciate the super chat. Every little bit does help support the channel, guys, so I really do appreciate that. Back to the Holosun products, what I also thought was really interesting is you guys have kind of even changed a little bit, because one of the early pictures I saw had the camera mounted below the red dot, and now everything's going to be up top. Is that right?
We're kind of still finalizing designs on that. I think that's kind of the direction we might be trending towards. We had a couple of different prototypes at SHOT Show with some low mounted sensors that were kind of on like a riser system. Just kind of trying out different design ideas, seeing what works the best. There are some pros and cons to each of them. I think with this one right here, we're hoping we can come up with sort of a modular system where maybe this whole top mount sensor is just a module that you can purchase. So you would just buy the red dot sight and figure out which unit you want to have on top of it, or you'd be able to swap it down the road for future upgrades potentially. There's still a lot of very interesting things we're still working out with it towards the end of this year with the release schedule of it. But, I'm thinking that we're probably going to end up going with a top mounted sensor, but we still have some other prototypes we're playing. So, but I'm pretty sure you're probably on the right track with that one.
Yeah, and I think, just when, for those that were wondering, like in case you have a laser or something like that, having that unblocked, having it up top, I think would be a benefit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it definitely makes it a little bit easier to clear all of your, back boxes, lasers, and grips, all that kind of stuff. There's a little bit more that gets in the way, which I think was why we had that riser system, just to kind of raise the whole unit up. And some people like that with that kind of the 193 style mount height, but it kind of just depends on how you like to set up your rifles.
Yeah. And the other cool thing that I think that, again, this is just version 1.0. So I could see this product pairing really well as the PID line develops, as your laser line develops. And as this line develops, I think this is just going to be the beginning. And that's why I was pretty excited about it. And when I was making my SHOT Show videos, I said arguably this was probably the most innovative product I saw, because it brings it to a price point that's going to be available for more people. Now, I'm not going to lie, $2,300 is not cheap. Okay, that's still a good chunk of money. I mean, that's like 5 Glocks, So.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those things where if you're that type of person that's like, hey, I'm looking into thermals, I'm looking into playing more in this side of things, and I just kind of want to have some stuff that I can start learning, I guess you would say. This definitely doesn't break the bank, because some of the other options on the marketplace, you are looking at some steep price tags to even remotely try to play around in that
Yeah.
that spectrum. So it's definitely a little bit of a jump as far as those prices go. But I think this is going to be great for a lot of the consumer markets. Just there's a budget version of it at 1600. It is still definitely a pricey optic, but I think we have to definitely keep in mind the capabilities you're getting with it. Obviously. So, but
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
yeah, I think
super cool. It's super cool. I think it's going to be pretty neat to see what you guys are coming out with in 5 years as well. I mean,
yeah, I mean, if this is our 507C for the entry to thermals, who knows what the next versions and upgrades and stuff like that are going to be as we continue through with it. So, I mean, really, the sky's the limit, and it really just comes down to what the consumers are asking for. We try to take as much feedback from you guys as we can. So, leave comments on the Instagram. Let us know what you guys are interested in, and this Q&A is always really good for us to take product feedback, and we listen to you guys at the trade shows and all that kind of stuff. So. It just really depends on what the consumer market's demanding. And right now, it seems like thermals and night vision and
mm,
stuff like that is trending very heavily. People are super interested in it, obviously, because it's so cool.
yeah.
And so, yeah, it kind of just makes sense to just give everybody what they're asking for, right? So.
And I will say too, like I had a few night vision related products on our SHOT Show coverage, and a lot of the comments, I shouldn't say a lot, but maybe a few or several comments were basically questioning like, why would the average person need this, or why would a regular person, or maybe for the military or whatever. And I'll be honest, guys, like have I used the term FUD? Absolutely, but the reality is, I wish our community would be not as divisive as we are sometimes. So let's just say you're a traditional enthusiast. Maybe you got into firearms because you had a hunting interest, a little bit of personal protection, but you own more traditional firearms versus modern sporting arms or competition or whatever it might be. The reality is, I personally think night vision is a huge growing market because we have so many guys who have some handguns, they have an AR or two. So I see people wanting to try new stuff in the firearm sport. So that might be precision rifle, or they're just like, well, I could buy another tricked out AR, or man, seeing in the dark is really cool. And if you guys have never played around with night vision, it is literally like a superpower. And I know that's being a term that's probably overused, but it's so cool. And when I had a company reach out asking if I wanted to do a review on stuff, it's the Pano Bridge by Noise Fighters. And it was super cool because it allows the PVS 14s to kind of pan out a little bit, which it takes a little bit of getting used to. But he told me, he's like, man, I got to warn you, I'll loan this to you, but you're not going to want to send it back. And I can't give it to you because it's like two really sweet PVS 14s. And he goes, but I'm warning you right up front, you're going to want to buy it. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. I'll play with it. I'll send it back. And it's like, okay, we got to work out a payment plan. And
Yeah, I think the emerging marketplace for all the night vision related stuff, it's something I'm just seeing so much more frequently throughout the community. I think people are interested in it. They're trying to learn. There's so many different levels of it as well too. It might be one of those things where maybe your friends all have super kitted out night vision stuff and are already down that pathway, and you're kind of trying to catch up a little bit. It's like, well, having something like this allows you to have some capabilities and still play in those spectrums without having to drop $5,000 to $7,000 for a set of dual tubes and a helmet system and all these things. And so it's just I think there's so many different levels of the marketplace for night vision, and for the longest time, it's been pretty expensive to get into, and you kind of got to need to know what you're doing. And there's a lot to know about the night vision side of things, and especially with new digital stuff that's coming out, it's just the market's really expanding with that. And so I think dropping that kind of idea into a red dot site and combining these worlds, it's just making new parts of the market, I guess you would say. So it's going to be I'm really interested to see like how the continuation of these goes and what the future of all this technology, like you said. I mean, if this is only Gen 1, who knows what the 5 years down the road is going to be.
yeah, absolutely. Do have one question here, looping back to 43 and 48 optics. This one is from Matthew. Why don't you guys send the right size screws for the 43 and 48 with the smaller optics, like the 507Ks and EPS carries, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I think the most common question we get all the time is like, hey, this screw doesn't fit, it's too long. And the reason why the screw is too long is that a longer screw can accommodate more guns if you trim it versus sending a shorter screw that can only accommodate a few guns. So we include a little bit of longer sets of screws for people to be able to trim them to fit the exact optics that you're mounting to your gun, because The 407K wasn't built specifically just to go on a Glock, it's built to go on anything that fits that footprint. And so kind of have to try to get as much options as we can for all the guns in the marketplace. But it definitely is something that we hear a lot in the customer service department, and something that we're working on trying to implement is getting a better system for screws and RMA parts and stuff like that. But if you ever have any issues mounting your optic, or you ever have any issues with screws, just give our customer service line a call. We'd be happy to send you out a new set of screws. But yeah, sometimes it does require fitting the screws to your specific guns. That way you don't have any issues. So that's kind of the reason why that happens.
Perfect answer. And shameless plug. If you guys are looking to shorten your screws, I know a guy who made a video on how to shorten your screws. When we post this video,
you gotta talk to Dr. Emil.
Yeah. When I'm done with this live stream, I'll add a link to the video description below where I have a how-to video on how to shorten your screws. I do a lot of installs on 43Xs, 48s, and I even made this little screw block that basically you put both of the M4 screws in, and then one sticks out slightly more than the other, and then you can shorten your screws with this little block. Now, I made this because I do a lot of them and I shorten the posts and stuff, but the reality is you can pick up a screw block at some hardware stores, or just have something to hold the screw. And guys, it is not hard to shorten screws. You can watch my video, and then I believe it's right around 10 millimeters is the overall length that you need to shorten it to for the 43X, 48, and that's using without a plate. If you use a plate, it might need to be a little longer, but I personally prefer, I will mill my posts down. I have a milling machine, and I realize not everybody has that, but it's, if you have somebody who has access to a manual mill, honestly, you could even do it with a file if you're patient, but having a little screw block like this, it's super easy to shorten screws. So I'll have a link, remind me to do that. And no
definitely.
worries.
I think it's we get a lot of customers, calling about that all the time. It's definitely a complaint that we hear about, but it's one of those things where, if we were trying to offer every set of optic screws for what goes for each gun, you would get a whole separate box that was just screws that you would never use, and it's really not economical to send out that much at scale. And so we just try to get a one size fits all type of situation. So, but I definitely understand the frustration from a consumer side of things of, hey, I didn't know I needed to trim my screw. Now I got extra work to do. But at the end of the day, it's our firearms, kind of got to take a little more care and tender work what we're doing at sometimes. And so it's just trimming a screw. It shouldn't be too difficult for most people, I think.
Yep, absolutely. Now, maybe you guys have talked about this. How long in theory would it be before this kind of optic technology, the thermal or night vision, makes its way to the pistol realm? And man, that's an interesting thing, because I think physically it'll be a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, if we say that the biggest optic window currently that we have is roughly the same size as our Ames unit, but we have such a lack of space to really put any kind of technology like that. We're talking about shrinking so many facets of technology, which is kind of the hardest part of everything. Is it is not that difficult to make a very nice thermal sensor, but it's not going to be very small. And so taking these things and trying to shrink them down is where you run into a lot of the issues with trying to do this kind of stuff. And so anytime, you're saying, hey, let's take everything that's in this giant unit and scale it down to a pistol sight, hard to say how many years of time that's going to take. I think realistically, there's so many different variables with power. Really kind of comes down to power sources, honestly. Like, you need batteries that can power this, and without a space for a battery to power it, it doesn't work. And so until we have some breakthroughs in lithium technology, or new battery sources, or some kind of solar panel that'll, charge some crazy supercapacitor type thing, we really limited a little bit more so by the technology of today's standards for batteries than we are kind of other concepts at the moment. So.
No, great. Yeah, great answer. Any idea if the PID line will have an option for LEP to get the candela up?
So I am kind of a bit of a flashlight nerd. I have tons of flashlights. I have an LEP that's like 1.2 million candela or something that I call like the beacon of Condor. You can just shine that thing in the sky and find me anywhere. I don't know. I mean, realistically speaking, the thing with LEP technology is that it is such a incredibly powerful, focused beam of energy. It's a very lightsaber-esque type device when you're talking about scaling it up. And when you have something that's in this size of a head of an emitter, having an LEP in there means I have a very tight beam. This literally would probably end up looking like a lightsaber if you were trying to scale this up with that energy. And so I don't know how practical of an application that is in the tactical flashlight world realm. I don't know how many people are need that much type of energy. Maybe we can diffuse it and come up with some other solutions to make it not so much of a centered hotspot. But I know that LEPs are definitely going to be the future of emitters and stuff like that. But I think it kind of depends on getting that beam to not be so focused. Spill is kind of nice for some of these flashlights, and having the ability to not have such a centered hotspot where you're kind of searching in the dark with a small pipe light versus, a giant field of view for the white light. It would be an interesting concept though.
Yeah, and I think the diffusion idea is pretty interesting. And I'm kind of a flashlight nerd too, and just being a photo video guy, being a light nerd.
Yeah, definitely.
And talking about like the rule of the inverse square, about lighting and all this stuff. But I do think I'm actually kind of waiting for LEP technology to come to the automotive world, because like if you could have like some driving lights and then have your floods and stuff like that. But I agree with you, man. Like from a pistol light, I mean, let's be honest. Most people kind of suck after about 15 yards.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, if we're being real about it, an LEP is going to give you, hundreds of yards of range, and I don't know how applicable that's going to be inside of a pistol. I mean, even for a rifle, I'm still like, I don't really know if I'd want to run an LEP unless I don't know what use case I would really have for that, to be honest with you. The LEP technology, I mean, they do have it in some of the, you're talking about the off-road industry, Baja Designs, they have some like really cool like pods that they have that go up by your doors that have LEPs built into them.
Oh, I didn't
and even
know
then
that.
I'm like, man, the beam pattern is so tight. Like, what is the goal of this? So I don't know. I think the LEPs are really cool, but it's such a very niche focus. So I think creating some sort of a, I don't know, like a dialable diffuser or something where I can channel that beam pattern a little bit more, I think is going to be kind of the key to that for, building it into pistols and rifle applications. But who knows what the future holds? I mean, we're always coming up with cool new prototypes and interesting ideas. And so, I mean, lasers are always on the table. So,
do you have any connections over at Baja? I need a set of those PID pods for my side-by-side.
I do. Yes. Message me after this. I'll get you in touch.
Awesome. And for those of you guys who are interested in the side-by-side, you can check out the Guns and Tactics Ultimate Range Mobile playlist on our YouTube channel. No, shameless plug. I did do some side-by-side videos. And what's crazy is that even though I'm a gun channel, I found out that a lot of people that are into guns are also into off-road stuff. And some of our side-by-side videos actually are most viewed videos. So
I definitely dove pretty headfirst into the off-road industry. I kind of grew up doing that my whole life, and so my Forerunner has gotten a little out of hand with the amount of modifications and things that I've done to it. And so I feel you on that side of things, man. The off-road industry, I think, is there's such a big crossover because a lot of times I'm literally driving to more remote locations so I can shoot in peace or like have a lot longer of a shooting lane. And so there's like a dry lake bed that we go out to that's like quite a bit of an off-road trek to get there. And but when you get there, you got 800 to 900 yards of completely flat dry desert. You can drive your targets out. I'm not walking steel, no more of that stuff. So it's a nice day. So, but definitely I can totally see that crossover is definitely there for sure.
Well, that's why I got the side-by-side. It's a legitimate business expense because I use it to haul my targets down range. I take it to the shooting area. And then it's like,
you feel my pain. Yeah. You only got to walk steel for so long through sand before you're like, yeah, about that.
Yeah. I'm not in my 20s or 30s anymore. So screw that. Let's see here quick. We'll wrap up a couple questions and then we'll probably wrap it up and do our giveaway. Okay. This one is from, I'm assuming this is from Ben from the Jill and Ben team. Have you tried recording video photos through the new thermal? And actually, don't they have a recording function built in too?
Yeah, so they do have a recording function that's built into them. I think it's going to be roughly like a 32 gig SD card. We might scale that up a little bit. But yeah, the samples that we have right now, I'm still working on getting some feedback from like figuring out how to get the system to all work together. So I haven't actually recorded footage off of these just yet. The previous samples for the night vision one, I do have some pictures and stuff from that one. But as we kind of work through the systems, I got to get some more footage and stuff like that and, spend some more time testing out the recording functions because a lot of times there's so many things to test in a given time period that it's things are a little further down the list. But that's definitely on our radar to kind of get some footage of that and show you guys what that actually looks like, because a lot of the videos that you guys saw at SHOT Show and stuff like that were kind of people just looking through it. Yeah. And so we'd only had those samples for a relatively short amount of time prior to that show, and so we just didn't get enough time. SHOT Show is such a big workout for trade show work, booth, and all the graphics and everything. And so hopefully we'll get some more time in the coming weeks with these. But I say that as I'm getting ready to head to Germany for another couple of trade shows. So hopefully we get more time when I get back. So
Yeah, and my video that I posted was just through a smartphone. I think we had somebody holding the phone. I was holding the rifle. We were trying to get everything.
It's a
just
trick.
lined
It's a
up.
tricky thing
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. This is a compliment, I believe, towards you. Certainly not me, but Holosun hires some studs.
Oh, Daniel Moon.
Do you know Daniel?
Oh, I do. I know Daniel Moon.
Okay.
Mr. Moon.
Oh, all right. Are you guys working on any Prism pistol optics?
Nothing in the pistol side of things. We are working on some Prism sights for the rifle side. We have a 3X and a 6X that we're kind of piggybacking some red dot sights on top of.
Cool.
But yeah, we are working on some stuff in that realm of things, but nothing for the pistol side of stuff. I can't think of any. Has anybody done a Prism pistol sight? Is that a thing? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I don't know what you would need that for. Usually you kind of go Prism if you want loaded magnification. So how far are you trying to shoot your pistol?
Yeah. And the only other thing I could think of is maybe if there was a Prism reticle for a pistol optic for those with astigmatism, maybe that reticle would be a little crisper, but that's the
Maybe
only
it's
other
just
thing.
like an edge glass reticle, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I can see something like that. But yeah, no plans of that as of right now. But we are working on something for the rifle side of things. So
cool.
We'll see. Who knows?
Very cool. All right. Oh my gosh. Matthew is still waiting for my appendix carry video. Yes, I'm going to be doing an appendix dad bod carry video. And then for sure. Now, someone is saying make a duty grade 512 or 510. Well, you guys have the 530. That's pretty damn duty grade, right?
I mean, yeah, as far as the aims also too in that category.
Yeah.
Realistically, the 512 series has kind of been discontinued at this point, just because of the economics behind it. We're selling enough units, and so we're just kind of like, hey, we're just going to focus our efforts on the aims and the 530 series. And the 530 series is, yeah, it's an incredibly robust option for something if you want like that larger sight picture. But I mean, also the aims too, if you want to cut down on weight, like there's some variables you can play with on that side of things.
Yeah, and Art. Awesome to have you here. I appreciate it. Also gave you a shout earlier because Art is one of our Patreon supporters. So I appreciate Art checking in. And some more comments for basically an RMSC footprint SCS or the 43X. So definitely some comments on there. So I think I think the market is speaking, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the thing with the RMSC footprint is such a because we have the K footprint, we try to make everything kind of work for that, and so now we need to work backwards. So I think that the RMSC optic is definitely one that's on our radar, and hopefully we can come up with something for the Glock people, because I know that the demand is definitely there for the 43Xs. We get that question probably more than any of the other ones right now for the SCS series.
Yeah, fair enough. This is from Antonio. What about an SCS system with a large window size for sporting use? And I would say probably the SCS 320 would be the solution for that, right?
The SCS 320 is definitely a little bit bigger than the normal SCS series. I mean, in terms of like, say if we were to take a 507 comp and make that into an SCS, I mean, maybe, who knows? I don't know. This is the first foray into the competition side of things. It's just the 507 comp, maybe it'll be a 508 and then titanium model, and maybe we'll come up with some solar options. Who knows what the future holds for this side of things, but, very interesting idea to have the SCS in like a large window. The other part of that comment that he had mentioned was the iron sights being a key factor of that. And so the thing with the SES series is that when it's designed for a specific gun, like say the VP9, for instance, we're able to remove all of the plates in the system and set it directly to their proprietary footprint, which gives us a pretty much almost an absolute co-witness with the iron sights. When you go to something that's a, hey, one size fits all model, we now lose that ability to increase that depth on the slide, and we have to add that back into basically the housing itself because we can't match that footprint. And so if you're trying to do like a universal large SES window sight, like say for RMR, the problem is you're still going to end up having a deck height that's maybe not as acceptable as you would want for the iron sight usage because it's not specifically built for it. So there's always some caveats with the SCS series because of the way that they're designed for specific guns. The Delta Point Pro is kind of the first one that is a little bit of a different foray out of the absolute co-witness with the irons and trying to get that as close as possible. This one does sit a little bit higher, so there's some pros and cons if you try to make things fit more platforms versus others. So
no, it definitely makes sense. And then some follow-up comments basically was it looks like when you asked FAFO about, their shooting, regularly shoots pistol to 75 yards, has an astigmatism. So yeah, maybe that idea of a prism pistol optic, because as my eyes are, I still have relatively good vision, but I'm noticing that I'm starting to see more of the grape cluster or that bloom with red dots. And some people will, when I go to classes, they'll say like, yeah, it looks like a a comma or, a smudge or whatever. And the way that I, have people test to see if they have an astigmatism is basically to look through and rotate the handgun and see if that rotates or not. Because if it rotates, it could be an optical issue. But if it doesn't, the dot is circle, but it's your eyes that are seeing it as this weird cluster. And that's kind of the thing that a lot of people don't realize they have an issue. And thankfully, my eye doctor is also a shooter. So when I go to get my eye exam, I bring my guns and I'm like, all right, 1 or 2. And he's like, like 2. And I was like, okay. And he told me, he's like, look, you have a slight astigmatism. And if you get corrective lenses, you're going to want to wear them all the time. And if you don't want to wear glasses, then don't. But he was pretty realistic with me and kind of, he knows what my goals are because he's a shooter as well. So Todd, if you ever get to watch this, shout out to you. I know he's a pretty busy guy, but super good.
Yeah,
super
our trick
cool.
for the astigmatism test is just take a picture through the optic with your phone. Focus your phone at a distant wall, put the gun in front of it, take a picture of it. If you don't see any distortion, then yeah, you probably got something going on with your eyes. That's usually the easiest way. So you hear people like, oh, I gave it to my daughter and she's younger and she looked through it. And they're like, well, she might have an astigmatism too. So it might run in the family kind of thing. It kind of just depends on, it's easier to just take a picture we find and you can tell immediately if you're having any issues with your optic. And a lot of times it's just people need to clean out their 507 because there's a little bit of dust in there.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I think we are winding down, and we've been going on for, it looks like about an hour and a half, and I really do appreciate your time. Man,
yeah, for sure, definitely.
Seriously, I do think this was the most viewed live stream we've ever had. At times, we were definitely breaking into the triple digits. Right now, we have 98 people watching, and obviously, a lot of people will catch this later, but this is definitely the one of the more popular live streams that we've had for a channel of our size, so that's really, really cool.
Yeah, we're definitely happy to hop on and answer some questions and kind of dispel some of these weird SHOT Show rumors and just talk about all the fun new stuff that we have coming out. Because, I mean, our product lineup for this year is just incredible. And I can't be more excited for all this stuff to get out on the market. And the competition optic is coming up relatively soon. And so I am super, super excited to see the response from the competition shooting scene, to see, what their thoughts and opinions are about it as we get more of these samples out there. And so it's just we have such a cool lineup this year, and I'm really excited. And so thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with us and let everybody know about all the cool new stuff we have coming out.
No, seriously. As I would quote one of my favorite movies, Office Space, the pleasure's on all this side of the table, So, and that's a little bit of an inside joke. We did a test run about like an hour before we started this, and we were kind of testing audio and testing the split screen and all this stuff. And speaking of which, I do appreciate you inviting your fan club, because Travis also replies, "Josh is such a cutie." So you've definitely you've upped the audience here. I appreciate that.
I do my best. Got a couple fanboys.
And I gotta say, if you guys ever watch a live stream where it's really well produced and they don't have any glitches, like, you need to give them a compliment, because I had no idea how hard it is to do the computer stuff, the audio stuff, getting sources all coming in, like mad credit to those people who do this well. Like, I had no idea. So we're learning.
Yeah, I think I spent probably close to like 4 hours yesterday just setting up the lights in the studio to get like the perfect, so it's just like, man, the amount of effort that goes into live streaming stuff is incredible. So it's a totally tell you on that one.
Yeah, and your studio backdrop looks great. The black, everything. I mean, it's well lit.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
If you see a panned out version of what's happening right now, it is the most haphazard setup. There's like 2 people slowly holding this light above me, so it's we're doing our best over here.
See, and I wish I had somebody else, because I could use a little more coffee. And I don't know about you, but one of the perks of working from home is sometimes my coffee might have a little bit of a kick.
Yeah, not as much of a perk in the office.
All right. Well, guys, if you guys have made it this long, I do sincerely appreciate it. I can't believe the amount of comments and interaction we've had. I do got to give a huge shout out to Josh from Holosun Optics for joining us on this live stream. Really appreciate it. Again, my name is Dave from Guns and Tactics. You can find more about us at gunsandtactics.com. And if you like this style, we also turn this into a podcast. So if you ever wanted to catch up on this or our QA episodes, you can catch those wherever you get your podcasts as well. So, Josh, I believe the thing that everybody's been waiting for, you're giving away a 507 comp. Now, to be clear, it's production, so they're probably going to get it around March, right?
Yeah, not too long away. So maybe a couple more weeks here.
All right. So here's what I need everybody to do is go ahead and leave a number in the comments. Actually, I don't know how we could search for that number. So let's figure out or should we just pick a random comment? What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think we just pick a random comment. Just kind
Okay.
of go through and find somebody that looks like they're going to be eligible for it. I mean, honestly, they're going to love it, dude. Like, there's if anybody who's got a pistol that's got for RMR, you're going to love this optic entirely.
Yeah.
I would say,
All right. So I'm just doing a weird shuffle of comments here. And when you tell me to stop, I will stop on a comment. How's that?
sounds good. I'll stop on DJ.
Okay. Stop.
All right.
This one right here is from Kanaka Hawaiian. So are you still watching, Kanaka? Kanaka? I don't know how to pronounce that, but are you still watching? Because you're the random comment that was selected when Josh said stop. This is what the cursor was on. So let's scroll down to the bottom to see if you're still watching. All right. Kanaka? How many seconds should we give them to comment? I don't know. Are they still watching or are they not? Because I think you have to be present to win, right?
Yeah, I think we should make that probably a pretty good, reasonable thing. But yeah,
All right.
if you're not watching.
If they're not watching, but let's give them a few seconds to reply here. Kanaka Hawaiian, are you still watching? Kanaka Hawaiian.
The proud owner of a new 507 competition.
Well, they might not be if they don't get their rear in gear and tell them that they're here. Kanaka, it's not looking good. Oh, nope, not many. Yeah, the sudden comments. Nope. That's right. All right, we're gonna give you a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Didn't make it, my friend.
Didn't make it. Off the list. All right, let's do the random comment again here. All right, let's. Here we go. I'm shuffling. I'm scrolling, and as soon as I hear you say stop, Josh, I will pick our comment.
And stop.
Oh, I almost hit the ban button. Whoops. Hang on. It is Lee Anthony. Lee Anthony, are you still here? Let's go back down to the bottom. Lee Anthony. Oh, no. Big Purple commented, pick me. Well, everybody wants me to be picked, but Lee Anthony, are you still here? You know what?
We're going to keep getting people that are taking off. I better watch.
I know. So the next time we'll give him a few seconds to check in, Lee Anthony. Otherwise, we'll stick to like the more recent comments. I'll try to keep the cursor down at the bottom. So we'll just try to do that. I don't know. Lee Anthony. Oh,
there he is. Hey, we did it.
Oh, is he? I didn't see him. Oh, yeah. There he is. There we go.
Perfect. We got somebody. Lee Anthony, congratulations, man. You are going to win a brand new 507 competition when they first come out.
All right. Now, where did Lee Anthony's comment just go? I hope I didn't delete it accidentally. There it is. There we go. All right, Lee Anthony, you are the winner. So here's what I need you to do, Lee Anthony. Go ahead and send me an email to theqa@gunsandtactics.com and send me a screenshot of your user profile so I can make sure it's actually you, and then we'll get in touch or whatever. But you have to send me a screenshot of your user profile deal on, looks like you were commenting on YouTube. So I need to see your YouTube account thing or whatever. And you can black out whatever information you don't want, but I have to make sure it's not an imposter, Lee Anthony. So that is it. Congratulations. Yeah, look at, man, all the comments are pouring in right now. Look at this. So
yeah, people are excited. I know that competition, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's going to do it, guys. Again, if you've liked the content, please like, share, and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. It helps the channel grow so we're able to do cool stuff like this. Josh, would you be willing to do this again sometime?
Yeah, definitely, man. My schedule is definitely a little hectic at times, but as long as we schedule it out, I would have no problem coming back on and talking to fans, answer more questions. I know people have tons of questions about the product. There's always new stuff coming out. We have fun new stuff towards the end of the year, so definitely we'll look forward to doing it again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we could even pick like a focus topic. Like if we just want to talk handgun red dots or something like that, we could totally do that. But
yeah, 100%. I'd love to, because I think there's definitely a lot of education and like you said, questions and comments for people. So I'd love to sit down and kind of just go over pistol red dots, talk about rifle red dots, whatever. We got tons and tons of cool new products coming out.
Yeah. So thanks again to Holosun Optics for hopping on this show. Thanks again to Josh. If you guys like the content, please like, share, subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, check us out on Patreon. You can check out our webpage, Guns and Tactics, has all the links, all that cool stuff. Special thank you again to Holosun Optics. That's going to do it for this episode of our first ever QA industry focused episode. I hope you guys appreciated the content. We sure enjoyed making it for you and interacting with you and answering all your questions. Thank you guys very much for watching. and have a great day.